All
Get
right.
this kicked off. So,
Yeah.
everybody, welcome to the NARI Silicon Valley Educational Happy Hour. Grab your favorite beverage, grab a pen, grab some note paper because Wendy Roberts is going to show us some great stuff as we do our May Happy Hour. So, Wendy, I'm going to shut up and let you take over.
I appreciate you. And I'm getting my screen here. All right. So thank you, Patty. It's so wonderful to see everyone today. Happy summer for those of you. It was a beautiful day today. An absolutely gorgeous day. There's a reason why we live in California. I'm just saying, especially Northern California. So it's an honor to be able to speak to you today. One of the things I feel is probably a good like mid-year thing is to think about your organization and how your processes, how your company is operating. These are important things to be thinking about now that we're kind of past taxes. We're not towards the end of the year where you might be doing some tax planning, but now is maybe a good time to think about maybe implementing a new tool. What would that look like, etc. And why it's important to pay attention to your organization, having organization within the business. So a little bit about me, as most of you know, I'm the CEO of Northstar Strategic Partners. And I love to do this type of educational training. I speak a lot for a lot of different organizations. So I really do appreciate the opportunity. I'm a startup CFO as well as a former corporate finance executive. I've worked for various multi-billion-dollar companies as well as being a startup CFO and public accounting. And I've actually sold a couple of companies. This is my fourth company. I published a book, which you're going to hear a little bit about today, called The Only Business Compass You Ever Need. And
In between those companies.
excuse me?
Patty, we can hear you now. I love it. If you could put yourself on mute. Thanks, love.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No worries. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? The first thing I would like to go over is what I talk about in the book called the 4 points of focus. It's a methodology that helps you really look at the certain aspects of your business and how to run a more profitable, sustainable, and if you want, a scalable business. Then we're going to talk about why do you want to focus on your operations, which is one point of the 4 points of focus. And then what happens when your operations are truly aligned. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples, real life examples of some of the companies we have been consulting with. They're in the construction business. They are on the West Coast. They're not necessarily a member of NARI, but they are located in the West Coast. And I wanted to give you a little flavor of what can happen before and after. And then we'll talk about some practical strategies and any questions that you may have. So let's talk a little bit about the 4 points of focus. Now, I want you to imagine that you are at your dining room table. There's 4 legs, right? And those 4 legs consist of your company's strategy around how do you build a company that I would be proud of and it's going to make me money. So that first leg is marketing. It's about how do you go about finding your ideal customer, who your ideal customer is, and how do you talk to them. The second leg on that dining room table is your financial structure and growth. How is your finances working? Do you have the right systems in place, such as a QuickBooks or maybe some other type of FreshBooks, whatever you're using? Are you getting consistently good data out of that system so you know how much cash that you can spend on a particular month? Do you understand your cash flow? Is your company profitable? The third leg is the one we're going to talk about today, and that's operational excellence. Do you have the right systems in place? The right accounting system, the right payroll system, the right CRM, the right tools like Builder Trend? Do you have those that you can properly manage your projects? Those are very important in the construction industry. And then we'll talk about other things like you can do to keep your company organized to make more money on the bottom line. And then the fourth leg of the table is people and team building. Do you have the right people in the right seats? Are they an engaged team? Do they help you accomplish the mission, the goals of the company? Now, I want you to think about all four of those legs, and all four of them have to stand in a perfect length and a perfect size in order for your table to stand. It's the same thing with a company. All four of these pillars have to stand and operate in an efficient manner for your table or your company to be stable and profitable. But let's say if one of those tables, one of those legs breaks, then you got to go and figure out, well, what can I do in order to improve that layout, to make it strong, to make your business stronger? So these 4 points of focus really talk about how I build a sustainable, profitable business. So today we're going to talk about operations. So you may be having some of these challenges. Many business owners are really having problems with cash right now. Cash flow. Am I super busy, but I'm still tight on cash? What is that? Why is that happening? There's probably a good indication there's something wrong with the operations of your business. You're not as efficient as you could be. Do your employees know what to do when you're away? Let's say if you want to take a 2-week vacation and you feel like uncomfortable doing that because all of the processes that you have in your business are not written down. They're in someone's head. And as you'll see in a little bit, the example that I have is pretty dramatic of when a controller left a construction company and what happened and what we did in order to improve the situation. Another one might be, are your jobs delayed because of poor communication? And that also could lean toward an operational issue because you're not properly communicating with your employees as to what needs to be done on a particular project. So that's an operational issue. Maybe you have other challenges. I've pointed out these 3, but these are good indications that you have something wrong within the business. And more times than not, it's probably going to be an operational issue. So when we put more emphasis on operations, and when we put more emphasis on improving how we run our processes and run our business, we're going to see vast improvements around consistency and efficiency. I have had several examples where we have been able to improve someone's efficiency and driving at least 10 to 12% or higher on the bottom line just by improving 1 or 2 things in how you run your company. The next is improved training and hiring. The better your processes, the better things are going to be when you need to bring people in. Let's say, for example, someone goes on maternity leave. It happens, right? That person, if that person's job is not written down somewhere and information is only in that person's mind and they leave, you bring in a new person, they're lost. It takes 90 days, maybe 120 days or longer for them to get comfortable in the job. What does that do? That costs you money because it wasn't written down and because that information left the company and it's lost until she comes back from maternity leave. It also helps you do better decision making. When you know your operations are working effectively, your financials show that. So your financials are stronger, you'll be able to make better processing and decision making around that. It also helps you lower the risk of overruns, as well as you have greater customer satisfaction. If your operations are running efficiently, your employees know what they need to do, they know how to handle customers, customers are going to be happier and they're going to recommend you to be able to do a particular job, construction job, and that's going to produce more revenue for you. So it's a cycle between all four of these 4 points of focus that I talked about: the marketing, finance, operations, and people. They are all interconnected, and they all work together like those legs on that table to be able to build a beautiful, profitable business. Now, when I talk about how your operations, you're like, well, I don't even know where to start. What do I do? And that's a great question, because most people are not, that's not the first thing you're going to think about when you want to improve your company. But it usually is very critical. And how I would start this, I would take this, you now know that you need to do something. I would identify areas where you need to improve. So let me give you a couple examples. Maybe it's the sales process that you don't have properly documented and you want to bring in a salesperson. Or maybe it's your back office, right? Such as your financial. Maybe it's, let's say, for example, your projects, where you're looking to say, hey, how can I get more efficient on my projects? We're not communicating. What can I do? So those are areas that I would start writing it down. I would probably list the top 5. And do keep in mind, this process is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take, and I would say, do take the time. Plan out 12 months. And you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds forever. It's not, because it's going to take the time for you to go through it and redefine it and implement and then relook at it again. So the first step is identify areas to improve. Take 5, pick 5. Then set goals. What do you want to accomplish with each of those 5? If I want to improve my projects, one goal, and make it very specific, I want to improve the gross profit margin of every job we do by 5%. Just pick 5%. That is what we call a key performance indicator. That's a goal, so that you then have the goal and the desire, and we're going to develop and document how you're going to get there. So once we set that goal, in my example, the 5% to increase gross profit margin on my projects by 5%, then I'm going to document how I'm going to get there. I'm going to document the process, whether it's communication, whether it's, what we do with the CRM or with our project management tool, whatever the case may be, I'm going to document it. And then I'm going to implement and get feedback. So feedback coming from the people that are a part of that process, the people who are challenged with carrying out that process to increase your gross profit margin by 5%. Get the feedback. Then you're going to recalibrate and say, okay, didn't quite get the 5%. This is what we need to do to get there. And you go back and you redo it all over again and get more feedback until you hit that goal. Then you move to the next one. You then communicate that to your employees to say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what feedback we got. We've implemented this. We're going to implement this through the whole company. And you go to the next area of improvement. Set the goals, document, get feedback, communicate. Then you go to the third one. Set the goals, develop, document, get feedback, and so on. And then once you hit that 5% in my example, you celebrate it. Don't wait till the end of that 12 months. Celebrate that you've achieved that goal. Then go to the next one and celebrate your successes. It's all about little milestones all across the way. Everyone who's in construction knows what I'm talking about. Milestones are project milestones, right? The same thing is applicable here within your company. Set out little milestones so you celebrate those successes and move to the next one. Now, let me give you an example. This was a kitchen cabinet maker. Again, they're on the West Coast. They're not part of NARI. But this is before. I would say that the owner was, when we brought them on as a customer, he was very frazzled, would be a good way to describe him. Very frazzled, didn't know what to do, couldn't quite identify what the problems were. But here's some of the things that he was experiencing. Tight cash flow. That's a real good indicator of tight cash flows that you might have an operational issue. Poor delegation by the owner. The owner did not know how to delegate. Everything was in his head, as I've talked about already, or it was in other people's heads, and they didn't know how to communicate with each other and how to delegate it. He didn't know how to delegate things. The third one, which I think many of you can probably associate with, and that is delays in projects. When you have delays in projects, you're going to show tight cash flow. You're going to have poor decision making. You're going to have unhappy customers. If you have unhappy customers, they don't want to do business with you in the future. So delays in projects was a big hit for this gentleman, which led to some of the other things that were going on. Employees not understanding what needed to be done. Again, he wasn't properly communicating. There wasn't a standard as to what they need to be doing and what they should be doing. Communication was poor, which led to poor execution in projects or delays, which then led to frustration by the business owner and being super stressed out because of tight cash flow. So what did we do? We actually helped him implement what I just talked about, of identifying what areas of issues that they had. And we identified that it was operational and that it all affected the other 4 points of focus: the people and team building, the financials with the tight cash flow, unhappy customers because of delays in projects. And it all came down to execution of, or a lack of execution in their operations of the business. It wasn't well defined and it wasn't well communicated. So when we started this, we said, okay, let's identify what the top 5 are, just what I just talked about. And we went through that process, setting goals, documenting it, testing it out, getting feedback, and implementing, and then through the cycle again. So we took each area that we were seeing issues in, specifically project management. That was the number one thing we tackled. And then everything kind of flowed out from that. We actually was able to increase his cash flow by approximately 20%. Now, when you think about 20 basis points, that's huge, because I gave him a little bit of more room. We're still continuing to work with him on increasing even higher percentages on his cash flow. So he's now getting more comfortable. He's happier because he's seeing cash in the bank and it's not so tight anymore as he tries to do the next job. There's improved communication between the owner and the employees. He's now delegating better, which is what he should have been doing all along, but he's doing it much better now. And the projects are getting completed on time, which is huge, which means he's got happier customers. So by just making some changes within the operations of your business can increase the amount of cash you have. The happier you're going to be as an owner, happier the employees are going to be, and your customers are going to be happier. So here's a scenario, another company. Again, this is a construction company. This is before. This is one I kind of alluded to earlier. They are not part of NARI. I just want to clarify that. They are a construction firm in the Midwest. The company has been around for about 30 years, and the controller had been there, I'm going to say about 12 to 15 years. So the company had grown substantially over that 30-year period. So this was a controller, and the controller, the main accountant, left. She gave a 30-day notice. They brought us on, but what happened was things were not documented. The processes were not documented. And we started discovering gaps, holes, in order for us to be able to even get the financials completed, right? Because it was all in her head. It was not documented. Simple things like even passwords we had to get to go through. So that can be an unbelievable nightmare. It caused significant stress on the owner because he relied on her so much that he didn't take the time to have all of this documented because she had been there for 12, 15 years. It was a significant strain on cash flow. Significant. The owner had to take money out of his own personal savings to put money in there so we could get vendors paid. There were issues paying vendors on time. It took us about 3 months to get everything stabilized, but we have now successfully stabilized the company on a financial basis. But what was really, I guess, a underlying factor here is the fact that the processes were not documented. And because they weren't documented, we had to kind of learn what should be done in order to keep the company functioning from financially, operationally, and to stay afloat. So that's a real life example of a company in the Midwest. So they hired a new accountant. That was us. We are now documenting. We're actively documenting processes. We're going through that. Take the top 5, set out the goals, document, test it, get feedback, and so on and so forth. So what we've been able to do now is definitely improve the cash flow. Definitely improve the cash flow significantly. Vendors are getting paid on time. That's so important. Vendors are getting paid on time. Because one of the stressors that was happening is vendors were calling the owner and asking for money. Do you know how stressful that can be on an owner? He was worried about having a heart attack. That's how bad it got when we came on board. Okay. But now everything is stabilized. Thankfully, he's less stressed now as a business owner. And the bottom line was, yes, the financials were the driving factor, but because the processes were not documented, what she was actually doing in her job, it created the chaos. So now it's in a great position to be able to go forth, and we're like I said, we're documenting more and more processes. So those were 2 real life examples of customers that we have worked with and continue to work with to help them establish more of an operational base to strengthen that third leg of those 4 points of focus of that table, so that you can operate much more efficiently and effectively as you're moving through your business journey. So a couple of tips that I would like to propose to you. The first one is documenting your SOPs, which are your standard operating procedures. That's a big word, but what that means is everything that people do, whether it's sales, our marketing, our finance, our project management, whatever the case may be, getting those processes documented so that when you have employee leave, or you have someone go on maternity leave, or if you want to hire somebody new, they have information that they can then learn how the job is done, and it will help them get a lot faster and quicker in the position that they're sitting in versus if you had nothing at all. So documenting SOPs, standard operating procedures. Another part of that you can intertwine with your SOPs is to set up KPIs. So when I mentioned that increase your gross profit margin by 5%, that was a KPI. what we call a key performance indicator. You should have KPIs for every aspect of your business, whether it's financial KPIs, operational KPIs, marketing KPIs like customer acquisition cost, or people KPIs. How are they performing to what you envision them to perform? And people like to be managed toward a goal. They want to know that they have an end game in mind. So when you have employees and you set up that KPI, that end game, they know where they need to go. People love to have those kinds of challenges. Humans, by nature, are competitors. We're competitors. If you think of all of the sports, whether it's the NBA, which we're in the finals right now, or the WNBA with Golden State Valkyries, or the Golden State Warriors with the NBA, or the 49ers, whatever the case may be, there's a reason why we watch sports. And there's a reason why we participate in sports is because by nature, humans are competitors. So setting up KPIs is huge for your staff. The next one is to invest in technology that streamline how you operate. So I mentioned earlier a tool called Buildertrend. There's other tools out there that help you project manage your construction jobs. But they're so important because they do allow you to become more efficient in how you do things instead of trying to do it manually. So manually, especially in today's environment with artificial intelligence and with the standardization of many tools that are out there on the marketplace, doing something manually is a waste of time and a waste of your hard-earned dollars. Another one that I want to talk about here is building a strong team. That's the fourth point of the 4 points of focus. Teams, building a team that works with you on the goals of the company. So you want to hire for a good skill set and for good character. Next, encourage feedback from your employees and your customers. If you haven't done this already, go and do an anonymous survey. They're out there available on the market. You can get it through Office 365 if you have Office 365. You can actually do an anonymous feedback system where you can ask questions of your employees or ask questions from your consumers and have them give you feedback so you can improve the operations of your business. Super, super great resource for you. And the last one is to set up regular review of your processes and your systems. I would recommend you do this at least annually, maybe twice a year, but at least at a minimum annually. Take a look at your processes and update them where you need to. And look at your systems, because systems do become outdated, especially how fast AI is moving, artificial intelligence is moving. I'm sure some of you have already started exploring with ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude, or with Copilot in Microsoft and Gemini with Google. I mean, there's so many of them out there now that can help you go through some of this, and that can help you kind of get started too. What I do caution is be careful how you use AI. Don't rely on it 100%, because it may give you back information that's incorrect. So do take the information you get from AI. Maybe you plug in and help me build a operational system. But do get advice if you don't know how to ask the right questions. Do get advice if you are moving in the right direction, because it can give you the wrong answer, which could cost you a lot of money down the road. Okay, as I mentioned, this is the book that I wrote, The Only Business Compass You Ever Need. You can actually get a lot of the things I talked about in this webinar. You can get out through the book. It's out on Amazon if you're so inclined. And one other thing too, as you know, because you are NARI folks, I give a free 30-minute consult to all NARI members. This is a little something of what we do, fractional on-demand CFO, coaching, etc., how to run a better business, setting up KPIs. And if you're ever wanting to exit, I can help you figure out what your company might be worth. So with that, I want to say thank you. I tried to keep it around 30, 35 minutes in the interest of everyone's time. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you. And if anybody has any questions, I'm open to that. So thank you again for the time today.
Wendy, you are always spot on. We so appreciate you. And you're right. SOPs are, AI is changing the way we do business, right? And so the SOPs, we just updated them a few months ago. We're re-updating them again.
Yeah.
And we'll probably be updating them again as we build agentic networks. So yeah. But hey, at least ChatGPT can help write them out.
They can help, but remember, I put a cautionary there. Be
Absolutely.
careful what is generated by the AI agents, because they may not be correct. So you need to get it confirmed.
Absolutely. So a professional like you would be ideal, but it
And
might.
one other thing too, if I can, just on the AI, unless you are building your own LLM and you have mega millions of dollars and billions, I should say, do not put financial information into ChatGPT.
Correct.
Or into any other AI agent, because it's public. Once it's out in public, you can't take it back. So be careful what information you're putting into the tool. Just a word of warning. I don't know how many people know that it's public and that it's not private, but it's super important to know that it even if you try to turn it off and say private, it still is. We don't know exactly what they're doing with all that data. So just be careful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, you're absolutely right. I've been reading some nightmares about people don't have the proper safety guardrails on there, and oof, it gets ugly.
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody, thank you so very much. We appreciate you and love you, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Wendy, you rock. You're a superstar. Okay.
Alrighty. Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Appreciate you.
everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.